When I told my two friends, Michael Palm and Michael Cornell, I wanted to do a Nebraska golf trip, it was met with some definite skepticism. Nebraska for golf? Lucky for them, I had done my research. Landing in the town of North Platte on a warm September evening, we headed straight to a local 9-hole course named Indian Meadows for a little stretching and warm-up. Bright and early the next morning, we headed north toward the small town of Valentine, Nebraska. First stop was a little 9-hole track about 30 miles outside North Platte called Augusta. I found this course by chance on Google Maps when planning this trip. Fortunately, it was a great decision to stop and play, and it didn't hurt that it was right off the road we were taking. The course has no services and greens fees are placed in a locked box on an honor system. This became a common theme across Nebraska, and it was something foreign to us New Yorkers. Much like the rules of golf, we would be trusted to be gentlemen, and we loved it. The course blew our minds, and it was a great way to introduce us to the rolling topography of the sand hills. The locals don't rush, and life here is very laid back, so taking a chill pill after coming from New York City was a welcome respite. The sand hills are an area of land that cover the central western half of the state. Giant sand dunes stretch hundreds of miles, only covered by a thin layer of topsoil, which results in perfect conditions to create world-class golf. Once back in the car, it wasn't long before the wide open roads gave us an idea. How far is the longest drive ever? The next challenge we faced was a literal lake covering the road. With no idea how deep it was, we decided it was worth the risk. I mean, golf was waiting on the other side. Of course we were going to do it. Once we arrived in Valentine, it was off to a little 10-hole track called Frederick Peak. The course was designed by the same team that built the Dunes course at the Prairie Club, a top 100 masterpiece we visited the following day. Tom Lehman and Chris Brands decided to give back to the local community that they lived amongst while working on the Prairie Club. The 10 holes at Frederick Peak really surprised us. On the first tee, we were greeted by the head superintendent, Andrew Getty, who, accompanied by his dog Maverick, told us all about the hard work they had been doing to make Frederick Peak one of the finest 10-hole tracks in the country. The course started out by winding its way over a beautiful prairie land, but once the 4th hole was over, the whole experience changed. Huge elevation changes and stunning scenery led to one of the more exciting courses on the trip. Punch bowl greens, blind tee shots, and par 3s that put the fear of God in you are just a sample of the joy you'll get while playing Frederick Peak. Hands down the best 10-hole course we ever played. After a long day of travel, it was time to eat a little Nebraska steak and hit the pillow. Waking up before sunrise to make our early tee time at the Prairie Club, 18 miles southwest of Valentine, didn't allow us much of a view at first. But within a few short minutes, the sun rose and we were treated to one of the most beautiful sunrises. The Prairie Club has 2 18-hole courses that rotate each day between public and private. The first day we'll be playing 36 holes on the Dunes course. The fee for the entire day is $160 for unlimited golf. These would be the most expensive rounds of our entire trip. Not too bad. The double-sided range, which is also private and public, rotates each day as well. The chipping green was running a fast 11 to 12 on the stimp, which was a big change from the other 2 courses we had played. With a crack of Mike's bat, we started our round. The Dunes course might just be the largest scale I've ever seen on a course. The fairways are so wide you feel no fear in taking a mighty rip. This sense of security is misleading though. The fairways are riddled with humps and bumps everywhere. Only specific points in the fairway will give you the many speed slots all over the course. The average golfer will delight in the wide fairways, and the scratch player will enjoy the accuracy needed to score well. The par 3 4th hole is only 180 yards from the tips and can play as short as 110 yards. This means putting from one side to the other can be a little challenging. The surroundings at the dunes allow its massive scale to feel natural instead of looking like a giant course just for giant's sake. It also can play as long or as short as you'd like, and mixing up tee boxes is a must when the wind starts howling.
Oh, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Now, the average man don't know that shit.
Is it going in? Oh my god.
Fortunately for us, we only had a couple truly windy days on our trip. About 6 months before the trip, I called a few courses and spoke to the locals about the best time of year to visit. I was told the summers are brutally hot and humid, and the middle of September is the perfect time. The temperature drops, the winds settle, and the night skies are spectacular. I heeded this advice, and we were treated to a truly magnificent trip. The Dunes course also plays firm and fast this time of the year, which led to some truly epic drives. Our longest at the Dunes was over 350 yards, and as you can see, Mike was pretty stoked about it. At the turn, you'll be ready for a stop at the Dune Saloon, fully stocked with every goodie a hungry, thirsty golfer could want. To give you a little perspective of just how big this place is, take a look at how small we are standing next to this greenside bunker. The greens on the Dunes course were some of the finest modern putting surfaces I'd ever seen, full of level changes and just the right size for the scope of such a massive course, not to mention the speeds were ideal.
Down the middle, just as I had planned.
As the round came to an end, it was off to the 3-story clubhouse for a little lunch and some delicious craft beers to wash it all down. After about an hour, we headed back to the range and played round 2 at the Dunes. Once our second round was over, we still wanted more golf. Lucky for us, the Prairie Club answered our call. Right in front of the clubhouse is one of the coolest short courses in America. Named the Horse Course, this little piece of land holds 9 greens set in many precarious positions that allow you and your group to call out different shots for a fun game of horse. We came up with a few wild shots that each guy was challenged to perform, some with more success than others.
What we call choking up on the iron here.
The horse course was a perfect way for us to end our day at this truly special golf complex.
It's very disconcerting.
Heard it.
I did hear it.
After a grueling day, we were spent. We scarfed down a traditional steak dinner and then hit the hot tub at the hotel. Of course, following the rules of bathing in the nude had to be followed. I didn't want to be that guy who didn't bathe in the nude. The next morning we were back at the Prairie Club, but this time we were playing the Pines course. Designed by Graham Marsh, the Pines is a totally different experience. Instead of staying in the sandhill dunes for all 18 holes, you venture into the Ponderosa Pines forest along the edge of the Snake River. Unfortunately, the trees block your view of the river below, but its sound is ever present. The course does a wonderful job of winding in and out of the trees, and when the wind is really blowing, this course is much more playable. The scale of the course is not quite as grand as the dunes, but don't worry, you will still have plenty of room off the tee. Another thing about the Prairie Club is how few groups are on the course. The day we played it, it was a perfect 80 degrees and only about 40 players on each course all day. This meant you could try different shots or take a few photos without worrying about holding people up. I hate feeling rushed at the course, and at the Prairie Club you definitely won't feel that way. Just be aware that this is not a white glove experience. When we arrived, the bag drop guys were not present. Granted, it was 7 a.m., and our lunch order took forever, and service in general was just okay. For us, though, it was worth the small inconveniences because we would rather have that money invested in the course, which at the Prairie Club it is. Again, the conditions and pace of play is world class. If you want golf from sun up to sundown, this is the place. If you want 5-star dinners and massages, go to Miami. For us, we would choose the Prairie Club every day of the week. After finishing up at the Pines course, we were scheduled to play the Pines again that afternoon following lunch. After lunch, however, we were informed that only a few members were playing the dunes and that we could actually choose either course to play that afternoon. We fell in love with the dunes course, so for us it was a no-brainer. More dunes, please. Interestingly enough, after discussing the two courses with multiple guests at the resorts, there really was no consensus as to which course was better. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. While I was in the locker room, I met two gentlemen who were members at the super private club Sand Hills right down the road and is ranked the #1 modern course by Golf Week magazine. I asked them why they were playing here instead of down the road at their home club. They said Sand Hills is great, but here they get 2 exceptional courses, not just one. For these gents to choose the Prairie Club over Sand Hills should tell you just how special this place is. And with Gil Hans currently building a new private club on the adjacent property, this is quickly becoming one of the finest golf destinations in the world. For me though, the Dunes is in a class all by itself and certainly in my top 100 of all time. I'll be doing a full blog write-up about every hole in the Dunes at some point in the future, so stay tuned for that. Once our time at the Prairie Club wrapped up, it was time to head to our next destination. With a bit of sadness from having to leave this special place, we journeyed about 3 hours south to the town of Dannebrog. Dannebrog is a blip on the map, but it holds one of the most unique golf courses in the world. Back in the 1930s, when golf was becoming more popular in America, golf courses were popping up everywhere. The Great Plains, however, had a problem. Strong winds meant grass seed was prone to blow away before it could take root. The locals came up with an ingenious idea to create sand greens. They would then pour motor oil over the sand, creating a surface that couldn't blow away. This simple idea led to hundreds of sand green courses all over the Midwest. Sadly, most have been converted to real grass today, leaving only a few courses sprinkled around the country. Dannebrog Country Club is the mecca of sand green golf and it holds the national championships yearly.
Here we are at Dannebrog Country Club, Nebraska. Mike's about to hit the first shot on his first sand green. Oh, get it in the hole! Oh, almost holed it.
The famous second hole is a green surrounded by an old grain silo. Getting on the green is not always as easy as it looks. Just ask Mike.
It's going for the high flop, folks. What?
The course is fully cared for by local members, and after paying our greens fee of $4, we felt like a membership might be in our budget. This trip was exposing us to a wide variety of new and challenging golf designs, as well as introducing us to the welcoming culture of the Midwest. Stay tuned for part 2 of our adventure and see what other courses the great state of Nebraska has to offer.